Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be going through a brow tinting tutorial. So let's get started. First, you want to make sure that you cleanse the brows. Make sure that you do this thoroughly to remove any excess oil, makeup or dirt from the area. If there's anything left on the skin, the tint will not be able to penetrate the hairs effectively. Now, some may ask, why do tinting? Really depends on your client's preferences. My client has discussed with me previously that she wants really light, subtle brows. So that's why I would go with a tinting product. Bit of a lighter colored effect, and it doesn't stain the skin as much as what a brow dye or a brow stain would. So use your oil-free makeup remover, a little bit on a spoolie, and just in circular motions, you want to cleanse through that brow. Really gently, but just make sure that you're getting any excess oil and dirt off the skin. How does that feel? Does that feel okay? Yeah. And then use a damp cotton round for each brow, and in just long flowing motions, remove any of that excess makeup. And once it's free of any makeup, you'll know that the area is clean. And then I like to run through with a dry cotton bud, just to make sure that the area is dry. You don't want to be putting any product on the skin if it's a little bit wet, because it won't penetrate the hairs as effectively. And always analyze the shape and everything before you get started. So just from seeing, the ends are much more sparse than the hairs in the fronts. And I did mention earlier that my client only wants very subtle brows. So I'm going to be focusing on the application towards the tails, not so much in the fronts of the brows. I may even do a technique to brush through the fronts, which is much more subtle than applying it with an angled brush. So I'm going to get the color mixed up now. Make sure that you mix up any colors according to the manufacturer's instructions and the ratios that are required. Tint products are a bit creamier in consistency. So that's what the texture will look like once you've mixed it up. Make sure you always close the lids of everything so that they don't ruin. And then you're going to whip that up. For filming purposes, I'm placing it here, but I would never put this next to a client's head when I'm mixing it up, because it can be really loud in their ear. So you really want to work it, whip it, so you get that smooth, creamy consistency. And if it looks like this, and you've still got little blotches and patches, keep working it through. So if you don't mix it enough and you start applying it when it's like this, the color won't work effectively. Now you can use a few different things to mix up the tint color. You can use the little applicator sticks that come in the packets. You can use little micro tip applicators or your angle brush as well. I tend to just use the applicator stick because you can get a really good consistency. Now I always like to brush the hairs up and in that motion or the direction of the growth, because then we're going to be able to see where we need to apply the color. And normally for each brow application, you'd perform mapping. Today, we're just showcasing the tinting application. So make sure you stick around, because in the future, we're going to have lots of mapping videos. Now, because this area here is a bit more sparse with the color, I am just gently patting down the product just to get a little bit more of a color on the skin and the hair, because that's the area that we want to focus on building up the color more. And now you always want to go less is more. So definitely apply less product and leave it on for a shorter amount of time. And then you can always reapply and add more if you need to. If you go too dark too quickly, you'll have to remove more of the product quicker. You can use things like tint removers or oil if you need to fade out the color. But then it may impact the longevity of the results because you're already washing off the color quite quickly. And then make sure you tidy up any areas as you go. Generally, just a little bit of water on a damp cotton bud is fine. And then what I'm going to do for the front is I'm actually going to brush through the product with a spoolie. So you can just apply a little amount and just really, really natural. This will help to add color, but not be so defined. Same in, go again with that damp cotton bud and wipe any areas that you need to. I try to avoid using too much of the tint or dye removers because they do contain citric acid, which can irritate the skin, particularly if you're doing things like waxing. You don't want their skin to become so fragile. And generally you'll be able to see when the color is ready, as it will dry on the skin, but you're looking at around 5 to 10 minutes to leave on the area. So here's a good indication where you'll be able to see if the product has set or is ready to be removed or not. So in some sections it is. You can see that the color's gone that little bit ashier, and then where it's warmer and it's still got that little bit of a liquid on the skin, means it's not quite ready yet to be removed. So once that it's all even and consistent along the brow area, that's when it's ready to remove it. Now, as my client did mention, she doesn't want them to be too dark. She wants them to be quite natural. I'm just going to remove what was placed in the fronts of the brows with the spoolie, because then that's going to give us a more natural, subtle effect. So you can do this with a damp cotton round, or you can use a little bit of cleanser as well. That will just help to remove any of that residual tint. And you can see that there's that little bit of color coming out. Now, because we've done quite a light color today, I will just remove the excess product with a damp cotton bud. You can use cotton rounds as well, either or, it's completely up to you. And now the hairs do look much more fuller when they are brushed up. So this is where I would provide my client with recommendations on products that they can use in between their visits to help give their brows the most fullest appearance. So things like brow styling gels or brow soaps. So I've shown my client the end result, and she's really happy with the color. She doesn't want them to be any darker. So I have advised some different products and recommendations for her to help them looking nice and healthy. So definitely a brow oil. If she is concerned with the growth and she wants her ends to become more fuller, definitely some serums can help with that. But generally, maintenance appointments, so tinting won't last as long as other brow dye or stain products. But generally every month, this can be performed and that will help them to look fuller. It's beautiful. So there you have it, all finished with our tinting tutorial. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and hit that alert bell to see more videos in the future. Thanks, everyone.